The following is a public preview of the New Models podcast. For our complete library, visit patreon.com/newmodels or newmodels.substack.com.
New Models Talkcore.
Talkcore. It's talk, but it's also core.
Blah, blah, blah.
It seems everyone is talking about Talkcore.
Would you like more Talkcore?
It's Talkcore from New Models.
Welcome to New Models. I'm Carly Busta, and today we are speaking with writer and cultural critic Biz Sherbert. Biz is a co-host along with Sam Cummins and Alexi Ilario of the podcast Nymphet Alumni, which examines flows of style in a time when any semblance of a mainstream is now a product of swarm consensus rather than top-down direction. We talk a lot on New Models about media, quote-quote, content, and the transmission of culture. And while you might think that fashion should be a natural part of that conversation, most top-down fashion, like runway fashion or the idea of a fashion expert and the kind of fashion trend analysis that used to be the mainstay of so much culture journalism, just seems besides the point now. And yet, there still is fashion, or better said, there is style. We reached out to Biz following a piece she wrote for another magazine titled, "What Does Beauty Look Like in the Age of Trump?" Spoiler, it's not the bleached blonde hair, clumped mascara, and caked-on foundation that might first come to mind. We were interested in talking to her about how ideations of beauty are transmitted in 2025, and whether personal style journeys, as rendered, for example, as the before-after transition posts of TikTok, have come to stand in for pursuing and achieving the erstwhile American dream. You can find Biz's independent writing in places like Document Journal, Arena Own Plus, and The Face. Earlier this month, Biz launched her newsletter, American Style, on Substack. We highly recommend you subscribe. I'm Carly Busta, my co-host is Lil Internet, and our guest is writer Biz Sherbert. Let's get into it. This very 20th century idea of like what style is. And we were talking to Olivia Kahn-Sperling, and she was just like, I honestly don't know how to respond to your question. She's like, I don't have anything to say. I was like, okay, oh my gosh. And it really clicked that conversation about style, predictions of style, it doesn't lead anywhere. You don't get like style alpha and then you're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I agree. I think it quickly became something that, my dog just knocked over my microphone. Oh my God.
I knew trend forecasting was getting rough when they started getting like extremely broad and fuzzy. Like basically they were just making up new like buzzwords for the ineffable.
Yeah.
Or just like all the talk about vibes.
Right.
Now you're just like, it's surpassed language. It's just on some other affective realm of complexity.
Right. Okay, we're good to go. We had Harrison Patrick Smith on the podcast at the end of the year, and we were talking about what he wanted to happen in 2025. And he said something that was like,
I think that the color turquoise is the most important color of 2025. And for a long time, it was my most hated color of all time. I looked at it in a different light, and I realized that the culture had changed, and I'm turquoise-pilled completely.
And that was his big prediction for the year. And I was like, oh, great, like maybe it's all going to come together for me, and like I can finally, use these turquoise things. And he was like,
it's all going to come together. The thing is, you don't even have to think about it. Culture is going to move to a place where it's just going to make sense
move me.
with other articles of clothing.
Yeah.
And I think that stuck with me in the context of like trend forecasts and the constant trying to identify vibes, because at this point you don't really have to do it. It's just going to happen.
Right.
So there's no point in being like, oh, you're wrong about that forecast, because it's all going to happen anyways, basically.
I mean, I think there's that other factor that it's all happening, and it's kind of a question of what stream you find yourself in at the given time. And to use the turquoise example, if you're like, that color, I love it, you're going to be seeking that, right? And the way that, I'm obsessed with this term neural media, which Julian thinks is like broken my brain because I try to work it into every single conversation, whether we're at the grocery store, Coco's Kita, or a podcast. And also this idea of like manifestation and putting out a wish and the secret. It's like, well, part of that is neural media. And when you are actively seeking, even subconsciously, a future where turquoise is ascendant, you will very likely find yourself in some media ecosystem that will reinforce the fact that turquoise is ascendant. And it's just the way it's working. Yeah, maybe that's also why we can have skinny jeans and
Are we talking about turquoise the color, though, or turquoise the stone?
Probably.
I think we were talking about both. Like, I think Harrison was talking about turquoise jewelry, and I had gotten this diary that was turquoise at the beginning of the year or something, and I was like, this is going to be my color this year. So when he said that, I was like, oh, how serendipitous.
We're speaking today with writer and host of Nymphet Alumni podcast, Biz Sherbert, a.k.a. Mark Fisher Quotes. Her writing has appeared in The Face, Spike, ID, and a slew of other iconic legacy publications. She is a columnist for An Other magazine. How do you even say another?
I think you say another, at least I do, but I'm not British, so...
Well, last week, Biz launched her Substack, American Style. I'm sure like half of you listening are already subscribers, and if you're not, you should be. It's dedicated to an exploration of contemporary image making, specifically the images we make ourselves into, how we construct our online selves, and the way that we translate these digital identities into our physical appearances, or the back and forth. We are really excited to have Biz on. Nymphet Alumni started around the time that New Models started, maybe slightly after, but I know Mark Fisher Quotes was already online then. And Biz has been in our head as a kind of Gen Z brilliant sprite on our shoulders, and that we also kind of fear at the same time. So I saw her write an article in another magazine that was processing the changes in conservative beauty post-Trump. And it just happened that at the same time you were launching your Substack. So it was a really great time to get you on the podcast and to chat with you about some of the media trends that we are constantly metabolizing here at New Models, but applied to the aesthetic shifts that you see happening. So Biz, thank you for making the time and welcome to New Models.
Oh my gosh, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Cool. Well, let's do this. Maybe we just start by just asking you a little bit about your Substack. The logo is this serif Americana font, and it's anchored by a star. And the first thing that came to my mind was the American Girl doll. I don't know if that at all is the reference, but maybe this is really a pat question.
No, it's so funny that you mentioned that because my wonderful friend Wen designed that for me. And is actually sort of based off of the serif font on like an out-of-print edition of the book Democracy by Joan Didion. And
nice.
I saw the serif, I thought, wow, so beautiful. The first edition didn't have a star. And then I decided, we got to take this to the next level. Let's do a star. And we got it back together. I sent it to some of my friends and they were like, oh my gosh, it looks just like the American Girl logo. But it was really funny because I didn't plan that at all. I guess it's just like the classics of American design, a nice serif, maybe a star. But I think it's fitting because I was an American Girl doll girl, had like my birthday there when I was a little girl, but it was definitely an accident.
I particularly appreciate the voice you have in this Substack because since we live outside of the country, America appears to us in high relief. And we feel every time we go home compelled to capture some of what we see. And you really look at these American archetypes. And I think maybe what's particularly interesting about it is it really is departing from this idea that there's any kind of top-down style. Like, we don't really learn that much from looking at runway footage or editorials and traditional magazines, which barely even exist anymore. But I'm curious what compelled you to take this framework for your Substack and what it is that interests you. Your first one, for instance, talks about a trip you took to Disney World.
Yeah, well, my work's always been situated in writing about how the internet has changed how we look and how we dress and how we see each other. And before that, I think since I was quite young, was really interested in like observing people that I would see out and about. It's probably like what led to me becoming a writer. So yeah, seeing someone in an environment was always like really creatively inspiring to me, I guess. And yeah, when I moved to London, certainly I had the same experience that you had of being able to see American culture a little bit differently. I'm from South Carolina, and I've lived a few different places across the US, but I mean, I think British people are just like wonderful at making commentary on American culture. Like, for example, the fact that I think one of the most prolific photographers right now who's doing that is like Nadia Lee Cohen, who's British. And I think for the past at least year, I felt really just uninspired by the media landscape that was constantly going based off of like generational sensationalism of like, okay, like Gen Z is doing this because like this is trending on TikTok, or like Kylie Jenner wore this and that's what this means. Or, you know, anything pinpointing online behaviors as inherently meaningful trends. And also that just became like the default position for writers, is to like, I have an idea. My pitches are going to be about these 3 things I'm seeing online right now, and here's how we can analyze them. And yes, I was really disenchanted with that. So I came up with this idea to just like start speaking to people that I was meeting or saw on the street and asking them about what they were wearing, who they were, what inspired them, what they did. And yeah, I just found that the conversations I was having provided me with so much more insight about people than what I was able to scrape from the online world. But I want to caveat that the opinions on how the internet had changed style and culture felt really like falsely polarized to me. So there was like a camp that was like, the internet has destroyed style. These trends are terrible. They're making everyone dress so badly. And then the other side is like, none of these trends are real. Dress how you want. You don't see this in real life. And I received a lot of comments like these because for a while I was employed to make TikTok trend videos. So I saw this like very firsthand. I always had a suspicion that those 2 options were not true, and there was something in the middle that was more interesting.
Well, I think it's really interesting that people have a fear of people becoming not stylish. Like, what does that connote for people when style falls apart? Is that for them the proof that some kind of collective public has fallen apart, or that we're like devolving in some way because style is a marker of, so I guess like my first question is going to be that. And then where I want to go with this is I'm interested. So, you know, we very much share, I mean, who doesn't at this point, this understanding that like things aren't transmitted linearly. Linear media, especially culture media, doesn't really do what it used to do. Any content that's transmitted via legacy media in a linear way, it's essentially empty. Its meaning is produced through its reception. Its value is produced when it circulates. So there's very little that you can transmit in a top-down way. So what do you think it is that people fear when they complain or are concerned that style is falling apart because of the internet? And then how, in your perception, is style transmitted? I mean, yes, in terms of like what platforms and media, but like more psychologically or like structurally, how is style transmitted? What are the points of contact?
Great questions. I think on the surface, like the fear, the production of clothing and style, this technology is really bad for us, and that it's making people dress really bad and everyone looks like shit, and it's creating this meaninglessness to style that is never ending. You can't get off the hamster wheel. It encourages you to just shop on Temu. It encourages you to have no taste. But I actually don't think people actually care about that, to be honest. I think it's honestly more that for a long time, I think people felt like fashion is my special interest, right? Or that's something I'm into. And then seeing everyone get into it, and then seeing people who are able to circulate it much quicker than you, either because they're really young, so they have more time to dedicate to finding reference photos and going to the thrift store, or have more disposable income from their barista job, you know, they're not paying rent or something like that. so they can try on these new styles, or they're better at making content than you. And so I think there's that classic fear of getting older that kind of gets distilled into this, which is like not being able to keep up with the trends or identify with them. But yeah, I think it's also just platform logic. I think people at some point reacted really aggressively to it, and that just became like the default nature of seeing someone coin a style and say, this is like my thing. It just became the mode of how people reply to it. And overall, I think people, just have this competitiveness and insecurity around image making and not understanding the trends or finding them uninspiring. And then about where is style transmitted? I like this question a lot as well. Something I've learned through my work for American Style so far is that Pinterest is still everything. Did you mention zombie mode? Because I wanted to, I liked that word you did. Okay.
Referring to content feels like it's in zombie mode.
Yes. So I think like Pinterest, for example, is maybe like the most zombie mode platform. It's like totally sourceless for the most part. It constantly regenerates new images based off of you liking or interacting with something. They just have no context for where they came from or who the person in them is or what this style's called. And I've talked to interesting alternative young people who really stand out in their environment. And when I've asked them, like, so where are you getting these ideas? Like, what inspires you? They tell me they go on Pinterest. Like, I met this kind of true goth girl who was about to graduate high school, like the day after we spoke. And she lived in a really, really small town. Her hair was super black. She had like Susie and the Banshee style eyeliner and makeup. Her style was so clearly like an intact subcultural signifier. Then when I asked what her inspirations were, like post-punk or like Susie and the Banshees, and I was really struck when she said that.
If you're hearing this message, you've completed the first step towards becoming a New Models member. To continue, visit patreon.com/newmodels or newmodels.substack.com. A complete library containing hundreds of rare New Models episodes awaits.